Welcome to the Crystal Hut Podcast, your cozy corner of the podcast world to explore, experience and love the power of crystals. Bringing you crystal tips, my personal journey and life experience with crystals, and of course some fabulous interviews from some spiritual superstars, all mixed together in one magic space. Get your crystals, get comfy. This is the Crystal Hut Podcast. Big welcome to the first ever episode of the Crystal Hut Podcast. Now, this is your cozy corner of the podcast world to explore, experience and love the power of crystals, like every day as we do at our Crystal Hut stores. Now, I'm Chris, of course I'm your host. I'm a fellow crystal lover as well. And if we've not met before, I hope we have, but if we've not, I'm the proud owner of the Crystal Hut. And hopefully, like I said, if you've not been to the Crystal Hut store, this is your first experience with us. It will just be like an extension of one of our stores, but of course you get our fuss-free crystal guidance whenever you like. That's what a podcast is all about. Now, a little bit about me. I've been into crystals since I was 6 years old, and now they've completely transformed my life. Now, my first experience with crystals, like many before, it was passed down from my beautiful Nana. Now, she loved crystals and she knew how magical they were. And when I was 6, I was full of energy, but she said, keep this amethyst with you. It will keep you protected and it will keep you calm. And I have never looked back. I have had crystals with me since I was 6, growing up through life and navigating teenage years, tiger's eye for my exams. Of course, every crystal you can think of has been with me. And the reason why we've got a lot of tumblestones as well in our stores is because when I was younger, that's all I could afford. So I used to have £5. I used to love my tropical fish. So I used to go out and buy my guppies. And then also I would go and buy a tumblestone. I would sit with it. I would write with it and to see how I feel. So a lot of people ask me, how do you know all this about crystals? And honestly, I learned for myself, not really knowing I was learning about crystals, their energy and what they can do. But of course, it was just meant to be. So in our first episode of the Crystal Hut Podcast, of course, I told you it was going to be a jam-packed show. So not only are we focusing on this month, it's August, a brand new month. We have a brand new crystal of the month as well. It is pink Howlite. Now, Howlite is a beautiful crystal because it really helps with anxiety. It helps with triggers as well. But the most important thing, Howlite, it's perfect because it's all about bringing comfort, and we all need that from time to time, no matter what situation we're going through. And on top of that, we have a very special episode lined up just for you. Not only are we focusing on anxiety, pink Howlite, and of course the beautiful crystals, as it is the new crystal of the month, we look at how Howlite can help combat many triggers that we have. We also have an exciting interview with Calista. Of course, she is the author of the Female Archangels. So grab your favorite crystals, settle in, and let's get going. Now, earlier on, I did mention that we have a brand new crystal of the month, and it is Howlite, but pink Howlite. It's a beautiful pink colour, but of course, any Howlite is a beautiful crystal because it is the crystal that is known to bring that calming energy. It gives us the ability as well to connect with our emotions, but also if we get anxious, we get worked up in any situations, it's all about bringing comfort. Now, that's a big thing, like regardless what we go through day in, day out. You know, when I speak to people in the stores, like I'm speaking to you now, we all go through this. I know on social media and things like that, you know, people live this perfect life. It's all polished. In the real life, it's not like that. We have triggers, we have things that make us feel uncomfortable, we do things that we don't want to do, and that can affect us, and that can lead to anxiety. And that's not a good thing, because that stops us enjoying things, enjoying life, and crystals are there to give us that extra boost, to give us that confidence, but to give us that extra energy when we just don't have that ability ourselves. So Howlite, of course, for August was the perfect choice. We had it last year, it's sold out. It is there in the stores for now. I don't know how long it will last. But Howlite for me, I've got white Howlite right now. Of course, I've got my selenite on me. But Howlite is an important crystal because it is all about me being calm, but also avoiding any triggers. If they do come, it's all about me feeling safe and feeling secure. Because that is what Howlite is all about. If you think about that tranquility, that sense of peace, that is it for me. And of course, if you've experienced white Howlite before, pink Howlite, blue Howlite, you'll know what I'm talking about. If it's a brand new crystal to you, what are you waiting for? It's an absolute amazing crystal. Now, prior to this podcast coming out, I asked some people on socials and in stores, of course, to tell me their experience with Howlite. And now the lovely Emma, a big shout out to you, lovely, and thank you for sending this over. She shared with us a story of her pink Howlite journey, and of course Howlite indeed as well, and how it's helped to transform and support her anxiety. So this is Emma's story. So she says, I started using pink Howlite during a particularly stressful time at work. We all go through that, of course we do. Every evening I'd hold it during my meditation, and I noticed a significant decrease in my anxiety levels. It's like the crystal absorbed all my stress and left me feeling calm and grounded. Thank you so much, Emma, for sharing this, because that, in a nutshell, is what Howlite is all about. It helps to take that anxiety feeling away. It's like a Hoover for anxiety. That's what it does. Takes it away. And I also like to put it under my pillow as well. So regardless if you've got it in a necklace, a bracelet, a tumblestone, shove it under your bottom pillow. I don't like it on the top because the grooves get in my way. But if you put it underneath, that's a really good tip, because if you think, well, you're sleeping, you're relaxing, it is there and is working, and then when you start the day, you'll feel better because it's helped absorb, get rid of any of those anxious feelings, and leaves you calm, collected, and at your best. But thank you so much. And of course, if you would like to share any stories with myself that can be put on the podcast later on, please email them to me at chris@thecrystalhutstore.com, and we would love to hear them. Now it's my favourite time of the podcast, of course. It is Interview Corner, and today, like I said, we have got the lovely Calista. Now, Calista, you'll find this talk so inspiring, you might go back to it time again and again. She brings her wealth of knowledge about the divine feminine energy, the archangels, of course, how we can connect with them as well, but most importantly, realistically, how we can use their energy in our everyday life. That's what it's about. That's what the Crystal Hut is all about. Keeping it simple, keeping it simplistic, just for you. Here is the beautiful Calista. Well, Calista, welcome to the first episode of the Crystal Hut podcast. How are you doing, lovely?
Oh, I'm so excited to be here and so honoured to be your first guest. Sprinkle the crystal magic.
Well, who else would have had? Who else? Seriously, when I was planning this and sorting it out and everything in between, it's like, gotta get Calista first, because your energy and us, this I think is probably the third or fourth time we've had a proper good chat, especially like this. A lot of lives happened in between all that. We've met once in person. I think it was just over a year ago in Birmingham as well, when we went cocktails. There. It was, yeah, of course it was, but the thing is, for you, I might be introducing people that have never heard of you, never seen you before. One thing I always see from you, Calista, on your social media and everything, you're a worldwide known author, #1 best-selling author, first of all, as well. That's no easy feat. as
Thank
people
you.
can see. The Female Archangel, which is beautiful. You've got the Unicorn Rising book, which is one of my personal favorites and got me through lockdown as well, bringing that energy in. You've got the Oracle deck. You do your healing. You're a mum to a beautiful family. I mean, seriously, for me, sat here with my own business, how do you do it?
Lots of chocolate.
Cacao.
Chocolate.
That's how you.
Eating chocolate and drinking cacao. That's what gets me through it. And crystals, of course.
That's it, of course.
It's
That's what we
true. It's so
like.
true.
What's your favorite chocolate bar?
Oh my God. At the moment, dairy milk with fruit and nuts in it. Oh,
Oh, there we go.
heaven.
Well, I always think if you have a dairy milk with fruit and nut, you're a bit healthy because you've got the nut and you've got the fruit.
Well, that's what I thought. A bit of protein, a bit of fiber, you're fine.
That's what we absolutely love. I love that to bits. That's amazing. But from me looking in and people looking in and think, it takes a lot of time to do everything that you do. You work with clients, week in, week out, developing them spiritually as well. But how
Yeah.
do you keep yourself kind of at the top of your game?
Oh, geez. I think it's a work in progress. It is a work in progress every day. You know what? I was actually reflecting on my spiritual practice this morning because I kind of thought you might ask this question. Um,
You knew.
my spiritual practice right now is literally to go outside every day and listen to the birds as I drink my cacao in silence, or sometimes I'll put on some of my own, favorite teachers or podcasts, and I just have that time for me, not my family, not clients, not the social media community, like just myself. And I think that's what we all need, especially if we hold the space for so many other people, or we have
Mm,
multiple businesses like yourself, like
mm.
different shops and everything. You need that time, don't you, to feel yourself back up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, as they say, we give from an empty cup all the time, and what use is that?
Yeah, and we can't do that. And that's one thing, myself personally, because we're over 2 years old as the Crystal Hut, and you kind of go in it with all the good intentions and everything in there. But the biggest thing I've learned is that you need to look after yourself as well, because you're giving all the time, and we're very giving people, regardless of what job we would be doing. If somebody needed our help, we would be there. It's in our nature, it's who we are. But if you keep giving and you keep giving and you keep giving, and then there's nothing left for you. And that's one thing where you've got to make sure, and like you said, the little practices that you do, they're becoming so much more important. And I think people, that are listening, that'll be watching, don't feel guilty about taking that time for yourself. Because I used to be one of those people, like, when I used to work full time and I used to have a day off, I'd be like, right, well, I need to go and see my friends, I need to clean the house, I need to take Bert out, but then it's still like, where's me time to put a face mask on and listen to Steps or Taylor or that
Yeah,
kind of thing. And it's like, where
totally.
now that kind of time is even more important. And actually, well, no, having a time in the morning watching Netflix, whatever, like you say, going outside with the cacao, having the you time, it's so important.
Yeah, it is, because the angel said to me years ago, if we are tuning into everything else, if we're not if we're not tuning into ourselves, we're tuning into everything else.
Mm,
Therefore, you're open and susceptible to be influenced by everything, other people's opinion, the sea of social media, everything that's shared there, which a lot of it, just makes you often feel worse about yourself if you
yeah,
hang out too much on social media. So you need that time to tune into you,
yeah,
to listen to your own intuitive guidance, or just to rest and feel back up. Like, it's so important. So let's maybe even just set that intention, as this is your first episode, that
yeah,
every time people are tuning in to your beautiful episodes, like, this is your calling card, beautiful listener and watcher, just to put your bloody feet up and listen and soak up the vibes and share in the comments or whatever chat is available with your episodes, and let us know, like, what's your practice? How do you feel back up? Because do you not think, Chris, this is like the age where we're all here to inspire each other,
yes,
to be each other's teacher, not just to put people up on pedestals or that's my guru, that's my
Yeah.
spiritual teacher.
It's not about that anymore. The
Love each other.
times have completely changed, haven't they? And it's even like I always think, like our relationship as well. Like like I said, we've only met physically in person once, but it doesn't feel like that at all, does it? It feels like I've known you for years and years and years. And
You're my brother.
yeah, that's it, and you're my sister, and
Yeah,
that's the way that it
yeah.
is. But it's like even with the Crystal Hut and the bigger community, everybody that we see, and I always think that comes through the doors, they're brothers and sisters completely because
Yeah,
we're all needing
yeah.
something. They learn things off me, off the team, but then we all learn things off them as well, and it's kind of
Absolutely.
it's a beautiful thing, like when you step back and you kind of think, oh my God, I've learned that today. And, even like a thinking pattern or to lift us out of a funk, something like that. And you kind of think, wow, and we were very lucky, but it's understanding that as well. I think that's a big thing.
It is. Yeah, everybody holds medicine, but often people are reluctant to open up and
Yeah,
listen or just, remember when I had a crystal shop.
you
Um,
did. You did.
yeah, you're and the people that used to come in were fascinating, but what captivated me the most was the kids who would come in
Mm,
and they would be able, and I'm sure you see this yourself, where they pick up a crystal and they know the properties
yeah.
and they're telling you different practices
Yeah.
that they do intuitively, and you're like, oh my God, these new
But
kids,
they
they're
don't
just
question it. It's amazing. They come
yeah,
in, and I always remember when we first opened up on the pier, and I didn't even think about kids being, part of our journey and everything like that. And they're outside and they're like, oh my God, black obsidian. And I'm just like, and they're like, yeah, it's good for protection. And the mum's like, what? How do you even know what that is? And you can see
yeah.
the mums and the dads like mind blown. And they're like, oh, there's selenite. Selenite's great for cleansing and charging. And you're like, how do they know? But it's so amazing to see that, but then also see the kids know what the crystals are, take them to the schools, they swap them and they learn about them, and it's just amazing to know that, like for me, I got into crystals when I was 6, and it's helped me throughout my whole life. I've had crystals with me since my nana gave me my first amethyst, and I've used that as a crutch through everything, different crystals for different things. But the kids are using that, so that's kind of like their intuition, their inner knowing actually there's something more in this that I'm gonna need, in my life. And I absolutely love that they're young. I think that we've had babies. I think she was 6 months old. The mum come in and bought her first crystal to put under her cot.
Oh,
How amazing is
yes,
that?
that's what it's all about.
But you see
Yeah.
it, and I do take it for granted because we do see it, day in, day out. But when you step back and you kind of think, wow, it's magical. And all these people we see and the crystals are going all around the world. They've gone to New Zealand, Africa, America, everywhere, from the little hut on the pier or Chester or England did know, and it's just magical to think these little crystals that have come from the earth, that help us, they're going on to a bigger journey, and it's magical to be part of that.
It is. It is. It's sharing the love and it's creating a greater community,
Yeah,
bringing us all together as a family, which that in and of itself is healing, isn't it?
of course it
To
is.
see us as a family, all of our
Mm,
brothers and sisters, no matter our background, our belief systems. I think that's the one thing about crystals, because they're in the physical, it helps people to, I don't know, take what normally just seems a little bit sort of out there and it brings it down to earth. It brings spirituality down to earth. And people can feel, can't they? Like
mm.
they can physically feel the tingling or
It can.
the effects if they lay it on their body or or around their home. They see the effects. And so I think crystals they act not only to bring us together, but they act to help us to have faith have faith that there's so much more in this life that maybe um other practices, even working with angels and things like that, a lot of times people have a hard time getting their head around angels, but to work with a crystal, something that they can hold in their hands, well, they can feel it and they can trust that
It's
more.
physical. It's physical energy. That's the way I always describe it. Is you saying that you're talking about angels. We'll get on to the female archangels in a second, but I've always thought crystals is physical energy. Of course, you've got the angels, which is a high vibe energy. We some others can see it, but we can always feel it. You've got the unicorn energy. For me, they're all connected completely because they're all a high vibe. It's just crystals are physical. And that's usually people's first kind of link into more of a spiritual practice, which I always love. It's kind of opening that door. And, like I said, you see people a bit like, oh, I'm not too sure, and just be like, well, you've been drawn to that crystal, and then when they read about it, they know what it is. They go, oh, okay, yeah, I need that, and it's just that. But it's just amazing to see that. But same, with the female archangels and our angels, just having that connection, having that belief there can change someone's life, and it has yours, it has mine, knowing that they're with us all the time, it's magical. But, let people know, lovely, about, the female archangels and who they are, and, because they've been such a massive force in your life, and you've brought it into our life.
Yeah. Like, I mean, when I was young, it's so funny you said that about your gran with your first amethyst. For me, it was an amethyst as well when I was
Yeah.
probably the same age.
And she only gave it me because I was quite hyperactive as well. But it said it will keep you calm and it'll keep you relaxed. So, and
Yeah.
that's the main thing. And it also will bring protection as well, which is just lovely. But I always remember it was a slice of amethyst that she gave me, and it's amazing. I always remember thinking, wow, but I never once questioned it either. You know what I mean? I never once thought, oh,
I don't think
you know,
I don't think you do as a child. Like I remember speaking to the amethyst
mm,
as if it was a person. I was a little bit out there. I think probably most of the listeners and watchers are probably the rainbow sheep of the family, a little bit
yes.
out there, like the odd one.
Good. But you wear it with
Like
pride
we all
now. I
are.
love that. Don't want to be the shy retiring type or anything like
I
that.
know.
We don't want to fit in. It's like, no.
So I was always really happy just being out in the garden, speaking to the fairies and chatting to crystals, speaking,
Yep.
have a little conversation. And I didn't know about programming crystals or setting intention. It was just so natural. And I remember putting it under my pillow and having a great sleep. And so I always had that connection, which definitely lent itself to working with angels. I had my first, that I remember anyway, physical encounter with an angel when I was 6, when my guardian angel came in through an experience of being really scared at my grand's house. Her house was haunted, and
Mm.
in response to the spirit that used to come into the room, I asked for protection, not really knowing what protection was, and this beautiful angel came forward and wrapped a bubble of light around me and my dog at the time, and was able to go to sleep every time I slept at her house. But very, very long story short, as I grew up, I went into academia, became a medical biotechnologist, worked in cancer research, very much only believing in what I could see. So I went from that very natural, intuitive way of being to quite cynical, quite hardened by life and life experiences. And then it wasn't to 2006 that I broke away from that life and started returning back to that. It was like a calling. And the door that was opened up was through Reiki. I started to learn Reiki healing, and went through the levels and said, I am done with science. It's time to leave. And that was, yeah, end of 2006, 2007, and began to meditate with angels. And the angels that came forward, they weren't just the masculine archangels, they were also feminine. And at the time, I thought, is this goddess energy? Because I'd worked with Isis, the Egyptian
Mm.
goddess. I thought this is not a deity. This is not a goddess consciousness. This is angelic. And the more that I sat with the angels, the more I realized that every angel, they can manifest as a masculine form, say Archangel Michael, but they can also reflect not just our masculinity, but also our femininity. So they come forward. So Michael also represents as Archaea faith,
Mm.
and then can come forward as the unified blend of both. that has no, it's not really a gender, because angels really aren't gender. They don't have a gender like we do. They're androgynous, but they reflect, they express in a way that speaks to us, speaks to our inner feminine, speaks to our inner masculine, and speaks to the part of us that's unified. And nobody was writing about this. There was no information. I thought, am I just making this all up? But the more I meditated with them, the more I realized, oh my God, every archangel has a divine feminine twin called the Archaea, which actually means root. So yeah, I started to teach about them through angel healing, which is a hands-on physical and distant modality. And then came the book, The Female Archangels and the Oracle deck.
There she is, and what a book, and the Oracle deck as well. I mean, I love that. Well, obviously, when we went to Birmingham last year, I mean, that was beautiful as well. And I always remember when we picked a deck, I knew what card, which was the Archaea Hope. I knew what card I was going to get before I got it. And it's still in my little workbook. I look at it every single day. When I go into the store, of course, we've got your books and your decks in all our stores. When I go in, your book often falls off the shelf onto a page.
I know,
and I message you and I say, this has just happened. It's on this page, and it's, I know the huts are above the sea, but they don't move that much where the books fall over and, things like that. And yours is the only book that ever falls over. Not any other does, not any other deck.
It's like, hi, Chris.
Like
this is for you, this little message.
That's what I love, but it's beautiful that it comes from you as well, and that's one thing, because I've got that connection with you, got the connection with your work, and be able to pass that on to customers as well, which is lovely. And I think, from who you are as a person and how genuine you are with your work as well, for me, has always been so important. Because I think as we're growing in the spiritual community as well, there's people that are spiritual and then some people that are spiritual and want a little bit of the money on top of that. For you do it for the right reasons. And I think a lot of people see through that, which I'm glad of these days, because even back in the day, I used to, follow people and this and that. And what we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast, we're not really looking for people on, those pedestals anymore. It's more people that connect with us and your energy, your light, your work, your books. It's at a level where it just is, and it just connects, which I just love.
I really appreciate that, Chris. And, I think we've evolved past that age of putting our spiritual teachers and authors on pedestals, because oh my God, it's not about the person. It's about what's moving through them. It's about the teachings or the message, or
it's not about us. It's not. And that's one thing,
it's not.
I've never understood, when it is about someone and, when their ego becomes before their work, they want to get on TV, they want to get on this and what, it's just kind of like, no, it's not about that. It's about you, and it's about, the teachings that they're bringing on and things like that. It's just, but I'm glad people are starting to see through it for what it actually is.
Yeah. I think we're in, a lot of people sort of don't have many positive things to say about social media, but one of the things it does do is it's helping us to be more relatable and be more grounded and down to earth. And those people that maybe people have sort of raised up on high, you can kind of get to see the intricacies of their life if they share on their stories and stuff like that. Right? So all, which is nice, brings it all down to earth.
And they're real. They're like me and you. They go through stresses, they go through strains, we're people living, busy lives, people listening, people watching. We've all got busy lives, and this brings me nicely into, because obviously we're in a new month. We're in August. So at the Crystal Hut, each month we have a crystal of the month, like a special rarer crystal. This month we've got pink Howlite. Which is beautiful, and a Howlite crystal, this one is your lovely blue Howlite, but any Howlite crystal is a really, really great crystal. If you get anxious, you get stressed, you get worked up, it's all about bringing calm, but also makes us feel comforted, but also helps with any triggers, and it's important to have crystals. You can imagine it's very popular in store because of that. People are really, really drawn to it. But for you, Calista, we all get anxious, we all get worked up, but is there anything, that you can share with us when you're going through maybe a bit of an episode or you're feeling kind of anxious? How do you deal with it?
Yeah, I'll definitely share. I think what we need to also say is sometimes I think when we go through those periods, we think that we're the only one and that there's something wrong with us. But I think, first of all, we need to say that everybody does, no matter if they say on their social media they don't, and they're given this
They
like nice
do.
portrayal.
They do. I don't get it. I
Everybody.
don't when you see it and you're like the perfect life, and it's like, no, you
No.
have breakdown. I have a breakdown. You do. Everybody does. It's part of
Yeah.
life, isn't it?
And the thing is, if you are dedicated on your path of self-discovery and spiritual exploration, you are going to have those times. And if you're not having those times, you're not growing. Because we all get to those points where we're like, oh, we know that landscape, we've done that. And then we go into like another way of being.
Mm.
And that is often, you know, catalyzed by some sort of big life event or relationship change. So yeah, anxiety does come. It always sort of precedes that the wisdom of the experience. So what do we do in those moments? What do I do in those moments? I honestly, I know we're talking about crystals, but I do go to crystals a lot. I sleep on and I have slept on since 2012. So that's 12 years. I've slept on what's called an amethyst biomat,
Love that.
which are now a lot more popular. I think you can
Mm.
get them on Amazon now. But back then you had to order them mail order from America. And it took like 3 weeks or something, or 6 weeks to come. And what it is pretty much just tiny little amethyst crystals that heat up that help to remove from the body all the buildup of pollutants and toxicity, aches and pains that we get all the time from
Mm.
just this modern day life. So I do that, and I also um, I have this by my bed. I use my
There you
gua sha.
go. Nice little Gasha. Love that.
Not just for skin, because Chris knows I used to have a skincare company, like in between leaving science and setting up my spiritual business. I made skincare and I would infuse it with Reiki and different things. But my gua sha, so I sit and I ask Archaea Charity, who is very much linked with rose quartz, and I would probably say pink howlet as well,
Mm.
because really any crystals that have the pink are the physical embodiment, if you like, the qualities of the pink ray. That's all about opening the heart, softening, calming the mind, calming the nervous system, bringing us back to a place of center. So I'll ask Archaea Charity to infuse her light into the rose quartz, and then I'll just sit and I'll go through my gua sha routine, which you could pick up on a YouTube video, and then once you know it, let go of the videos and just be there. If you want to use a gua sha, the reason I do it is because it's bringing that self-love back into you. It's really relaxing because you're working with rose quartz and Archaea Charity, and it's just time for you to unwind. And I think with any of the anti-anxiety practices, what is it doing? It's providing a pause from the busyness of the mind that's probably in reaction mode or catastrophizing something or trying to problem solve what's just happened. And it provides that space, provides that much needed pause to let the mind just calm down so that you come into the heart, which always has the solutions,
Of course.
right? Heart always knows the way. So yeah, anything that can drop you into your heart like that, whether it's a physical practice. I also use yin yoga a lot. Yin yoga
Right.
again.
I like that. I like.
Yeah, well, again, yin is all about helping you to get into the parasympathetic nervous system, helping you to slow down. Pink howlet, rose quartz, like in fact, howlet as a whole family does
It
that,
is, yeah, completely. I mean,
doesn't it?
Howlites, it's so important, and it's, a crystal that I go to time and time again, and it's just, like you said, you had your beautiful kind of crystal mattress. For me, I'm a little bit more cheaper. I just get tumblestone and shove it under my pillow. But
That'll do.
it's still the same thing, isn't it? It's still
It
the
is,
same
it is.
thing. But I do, I have crystals on me every single day, completely. But then when I sleep, before I go to bed, I have them charging on my selenite charging pad before, in the day. And then at night, I put them in front. Okay, what do I need tonight? And I just see what I'm guided to. And I put two under my pillow, on the bottom of my pillow, so they're not like on my face. And then they do their job. But it's the same thing,
Yeah,
that you described.
yeah,
That crystal energy will work on us when we sleep. It's a good way to get that energy, and especially if we're dealing with anxiety, like your howlites, while we're sleeping, you know, we're resting, but sometimes our mind doesn't rest enough. But having that Howlite there, it will just pass that calming energy onto us physically, emotionally, and spiritually as well while we sleep. So, you know, that's a really good shout out there, Lovey, as well, to pop, you know, the pink Howlite, white Howlite, blue Howlite, you know, just any Howlite under the pillow will help us with anxiety completely.
Yes. Have you ever thought about, if you're focusing on a different crystal every show, which is amazing, like asking the spirit of the Howlite, for example, to infuse the whole show?
That's what we like. Well, that's what I think it's
That's what we're
done.
doing, really?
Completely. That is what it's
Yeah,
done. You know, we've got the
yeah,
Howlite. That's what it's all
love it.
about, you know, in here. And I feel that, you know, this podcast, the Crystal Hut podcast, is an extension of our stores. You know, for
Yeah,
people that can't come to our stores all the time, you know, they want that energy, and you know, it comes from me, comes from the stores, comes from the crystals, comes from you, you know, into our ears. People are watching it, but it's all about getting that positivity as well, you know, which is just
absolutely.
so important, and to lift them, you know, and bring crystals to a different audience that may have never been any stores, or may have never, you know, heard of, seen you before, but now they do. You know, which I just think it's magical that we can do that.
Absolutely. And just always remembering that there's always tools, even in the darkest, most negative, like wherever, because it's our mind that gets us there. Our mind believes in suffering,
Yes.
separation, illusion, fear. So wherever the drama of the mind has taken us, wherever we've bought into whatever's going on, there is something that can help us to be like that life raft, to pull us
Mm.
back and help us gain perspective, even if it's sticking one in your bra or like your pocket,
Your
like,
knickers, anywhere.
but just realizing, just
Mm.
totally realizing that there's always something there. And if not, reach out to a friend or
Yep,
share.
that's
Like,
it.
don't
That's it.
suffer in
To us,
silence.
anyone, you know, and the main thing is that they're never
Exactly.
alone. There's always something to help people. Right, lovely. So the last question for you, my love, and this is the most important question in the whole podcast. What is your favorite crystal and why?
I knew you were going to ask me that. Honestly, we're totally tuned in, and I brought it.
Oh, wow.
Honestly, everyone, I did not know these crystal questions. This is a type of zeolite, like the quartz family. This is a
Mm.
type of zeolite, and it's called green huldenite. Look at that! It's like even. Do you see the little face coming
It's
through?
beautiful. Yeah, look at that.
Nice. Hi. So anyway, huldenite. Huldenite. This one sleeps on my bedside cabinet, or sits beside me as I'm sleeping on my bedside cabinet most nights. Why? Because green huldenite is really good for bringing to the surface past life or other life stories, circumstances, contracts, conditionings that you don't even know about, or maybe that you do, and it brings them out of our subconscious, either to resolve them or brings them to our conscious awareness so that we can deal with them. And honestly, before I started working with it, it was all green, and now it's kind of
Oh,
like dark.
that's
And I
it.
said to Crystal, I'm sorry, is that me? They're like,
You've
no,
been
no, no.
working that crystal hard, lovely. Poor
But
thing.
But for those that are listening, our crystals change and adapt when we start to work with them, don't they?
Of course
Sometimes
they
they have
do. Of course they do. And they don't
little
stop growing as
rainbows.
well. Like they really, really don't
Exactly.
stop growing completely. But Bert's just woke up as well. Just looked at
So,
staring at me.
so yeah, past life healing, and deep heart healing. Amazing, amazing crystal to have with you guys.
Oh, I love that, Calista. Well, thank you, sweetie, for your time today, talking about the female archangels, everything in between, crystals, of course, but you're just an absolute beautiful soul. Thank you so much for being the first guest on the Crystal Hut podcast. Lots of love, darling. Mwah.
Mwah.
Wasn't Calista amazing there? Of course she was, and it's an absolute honour to have her on as the first guest on the Crystal Hut podcast. I'm sure she will be back. But of course, if you want to find out about Calista, you want to have a look at her books, her decks, her cards, they're in all our beautiful stores. And a bit of a crystal tip for you as well, of course, to keep your crystals cleansed and recharged. This is so important because many people, will buy crystals and they'll wear them and they'll use them and then not really know that they need to be cleansed and recharged. And now think of it like your mobile phone. You use it, it needs to be charged. And the same with crystals because they've got their energy. When we use them in the day, and of course I use my crystals a lot, that energy will deplete because other energies attaches to it, the property won't get through. So of course that needs to be lifted, needs to be cleansed, and the energy of the crystal needs to be recharged. Now there's many ways that you can do this, but the easiest way is with selenite. Now selenite is one of the highest vibration crystals that there is. It's a beautiful crystal. The frequency is very angelic as well, hence why I wear it every day, keeps my vibe nice and high. But when it's with crystals, of course, that is where it is at its best. So we've got it in charging pads, we've got it in bowls, everything. But as long as you put your crystals at the end of the day on a charging pad, it will cleanse, it will charge them, and then they'll be ready to go for the next day. It's as simple as that. But of course, there's many other ways as well. When it's sunny, when we do have the sun in the UK, of course, you can put them in the sun. That will re-energize them. And then also as well, when it's a full moon, leave them out in the full moon. That will cleanse them. You can do it with sage as well to cleanse them. And on top of that, you've got the meditation bells. That frequency or your singing bowls will cleanse the crystals as well. Or of course, you've got incense. There's loads of ways to do it. But for me, the easiest way is with selenite. So that's a good little tip for you. Of course, if you're someone maybe that's just getting into crystals or you've been using crystals for a long time, give it a go and let me know what you think. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review and follow us on all our social media platforms at The Crystal Hut Store. And also as well, we are online at www.thecrystalhutstore.com, or in person visit our 3 beautiful stores. Our first store on Llandudno Pier, it's stunning, you need to go and see it. We've got our beautiful larger store on Clonwell Street in Llandudno and also in New Chester Market. Go and find out what the stores are all about, but all you've got to do is look for the pink and follow the neon. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. Where's the time gone? But thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the wonderful world of pink howlite, of course crystals, the first Crystal Hut podcast, and our beautiful chat with Calista. Now remember, whether you're starting your crystal collection, you're a seasoned pro, there's always something new to discover and connect with in the crystal world. So until next time, keep shining and stay magical. This is Chris signing off from the Crystal Hut podcast.